Hi, this is Ren, and this is All Walks of Film. So, the Oscar announcements just came out today, and I gotta say, I'm not trying to give myself too much credit, but I predicted just about every single Oscar. I actually thought there were only going to be six, but there actually turned out to be nine. A friend of mine said that they had eight last year, so I added two into the mix, and the two that I added were Hell or High Water and Lion. It's partly based on the Golden Globes, but also because I thought Hell or High Water was just Oscar film material. Now, granted, my co host wasn't too sure about Hell or High Water. We both liked it, but she didn't think that the themes were PC enough for the Oscars. And I gotta say, this is a very PC year for the Oscars, and I'll get more into that a little bit later. Alright, so the picks that I chose for the Oscars yesterday. That's right, I waited until yesterday to make my picks, which I know might be cheating, but I didn't make my list after the Oscars. This is just how it turned out. So the picks that I chose were Moonlight, Manchester by the Sea, La La Land, Fences, Hacksaw Ridge, Lion, Hell or High Water, and Hidden Figures. The big surprise was Arrival. Now, I probably would have added Arrival just because of how many top 10 lists it got onto. But for Best Picture, after I saw the movie, I did feel that some people were going to propose this for Best Picture. But is it really Best Picture material? I don't think so. I think it's serviceable. I don't think it's great. My co-host hates it. But I'm just really lukewarm on it. I liked it up until a certain point. And then when she broke some of the stuff down, I had to think to myself how much I really didn't like the movie. And yes, you could say that I was influenced by her to make a different opinion on the movie. But once we actually started talking about it and breaking it down, it's a weak movie. Manchester by the Sea, on the other hand, was a movie that I wasn't really interested in seeing. I had seen the trailer God knows how many times, and it just looked like a milquetoast slice of life drama that was uplifting. And when I saw the movie, in fact, if you're expecting something like that from Manchester by the Sea, I gotta tell you, you're probably gonna be disappointed. But if you're looking for a film that's a lot more realistic and doesn't sugarcoat things, then Manchester by the Sea is great. It was probably the biggest surprise for me, just because I went in with so low expectations, and it wound up being my number 3 film of the entire year. Moonlight was absolutely amazing, and I went in really knowing nothing about the movie, other than the fact that there were themes of homosexuality and it was in the black community. That was pretty much it. I had seen a trailer. It was one of the earlier teaser trailers that didn't really give a lot away, and I just watched a small snippet of it. And I went into the film, and just experiencing Chiron's story was so powerful. And I get that a lot of people might find this movie too arty. They might, think that, oh, well, it's about a gay black man. Oh, look, it's trying to, do something that hasn't been done, in that perspective. And while it does take place in a poorer area, and while there isn't a single white person in the movie, and you have some characters in the film playing stereotypical roles to a certain extent. I think drug dealing and drug addiction are kind of the bane of stereotypes for African Americans, but the movie really isn't about that. While those are strong elements in the film. The movie is a lot more like Boyhood than anything else. But go in with an open mind, because it's a film that is paced in a certain way that if you're not used to art house movies, it might be slow for you. And quite frankly, I was really happy to see it nominated. It won the Golden Globes for Best Drama, which I do believe it truly deserved. But it's such a raw, powerful story. And I really like the fact that it has been getting the love and acclaim that I think is rightfully deserved. La La Land, on the other hand, is getting a little too much praise. I mean, there are literally people out there that are treating any sort of criticism about La La Land like you hate the movie and you think it's awful, and they're treating it like you just called their kid ugly. I think I heard that on some movie fights, but it's so true. I watched this sketch on SNL where they were holding Aziz Ansari hostage because he didn't like the movie, and the sketch is funny. I'll put a link into it, but like it's serious. Like, go on to our La La Land review, and there are a couple of people on there that were just like, this movie is perfect, it's wonderful, and quite frankly, I don't agree with that statement. La La Land is probably going to win Best Picture. Does it deserve to win Best Picture? Out of the choices given, while I'm pretty sure it's better than some of the ones that I haven't seen. Now, I could be mistaken. I'm not going to criticize a movie that I haven't seen. From what I have, it's on the weaker side. Granted, I think it's better than Arrival, but Hell or High Water, Manchester by the Sea, and Moonlight are much better films. Now, to be fair, I am not a fan of musicals, which means that my criticism of it is coming from somebody who isn't the target audience. But at the same time, I have liked musicals in the past. To me, I actually think the movie succeeds when it's not a musical. When it's just a movie about music and the love of music, and Ryan Gosling's character selling out because he just has to do music, and while he loves jazz, he's like stuck in this nostalgic time bubble. That's interesting. However, the movie's trying to tell me that Emma Stone is actually the most important character. She's an actor in the film. You don't see her act with anybody. You know, she gives these auditions, which there isn't even a chemistry audition. She just, auditions herself. And I've been a student filmmaker, and even I do chemistry testing. Now, some people don't, and that's fine. Sometimes it works, sometimes you trust your actor, but for me personally, I like doing chemistry testing. We didn't see enough of her performances for me to see her as a star, and I think that hurts the film. Now, granted, if you haven't seen the film, you might be wondering what I'm talking about. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in the Oscars and watching all the films, to check it out and see what you think. I think some people went in with really low expectations and were surprised, but on the other hand, I think some of the love for this film is kind of unwarranted. But it's probably going to win Best Picture. Hell or High Water. I'm really glad to see this film on the list. My co-host didn't think that it was going to be a film that would be nominated, and it just kind of felt like a film that would be nominated. A lot of its themes carry on from The Big Short last year about the housing crisis, and this film centers around two robbers who rob banks because they want to pay off their mortgage. I thought that was really compelling, And Ben Foster and Chris Pine have great chemistry. And I'm really disappointed that Ben Foster didn't get a Best Supporting nod, because he was great. I don't think it's going to win Best Picture, but it's nice to see it nominated. Now, that's all the films that I have seen up to this point. Now, I will try to catch up to them before Oscar night, but for right now, I've seen 5 of the 9 nominated films, which is pretty good, and at least for right now, I think the films that I've seen are probably the front runners. My cousin told me that Fences is an amazing play, but the movie didn't really take advantage of it being a movie. And now I've heard this complaint actually from a handful of people, and a lot of people just say that it feels too much like a stage play just put on screen. Hacksaw Ridge is kind of interesting because Mel Gibson has a pretty bad reputation. He's kind of a pariah in Hollywood. I mean, after some of the crazy shit he said when he was drunk, he's got a long way to go for redemption. Could this actually be his redemption year? Probably not, but it's interesting to see a film of his get nominated. I do think it's interesting, at least from what I've heard of the film, that the movie is pretty violent, even though the main character is a conscientious objector. Now, that is an interesting concept for a war film. I'm really interested in watching Hacksaw Ridge, but until I've seen the movie, I can't pass criticism of it. Hidden Figures, on the other hand, looks like a safe Oscar movie. You know, every year, there's one movie that's nominated that's for your grandparents. This year it has 2, La La Land and Hidden Figures. Hidden Figures looks like the type of movie that your teacher rolls into the classroom when they don't want to teach. Now, that might be selling the movie short, but from what I heard, people don't smoke in the movie, which is historically inaccurate, but I get it. You know, it's kind of a Disney-fied movie. And it's about NASA and the prejudices these women faced. Overall, I'm still interested in watching the movie, but I'm a little skeptical. I did really like Janelle Monáe in Moonlight, so watching her in another movie, that sounds great. Also, Octavia Spencer is wonderful in everything she's in. I really liked her in Snowpiercer. And I haven't watched any of Empire. I know I've heard that Taraji B. Henson is great in that. So I am looking forward to watching Hidden Figures. I just think it's probably the safest movie on the list. Lion, on the other hand, I don't really know much about the movie. All I know is it's about like some kid that gets separated from his parents, and then he gets adopted, and then he's trying to go back and find his family and stuff like that. It seems like kind of a slice of life, you know, soul-searching kind of movie, which could be good. I've heard criticism both ways. I don't know much, so like I said, I can't really judge. But before Oscar night, I will be able to have some assessment of the film. So let's talk about the snubs real quick. Silence. Scorsese has been working on a film for about 30 years now, and it's amazing. I think that some people are either avoiding it or dismissing it because, oh, you know, it's a white character and he goes into the Asian land and he's a missionary. Oh, and it's a Christian movie and I'm an atheist and all this kind of stuff. Like, I've heard a lot of complaints, and like, I gotta say, like, it's frustrating because I think people are judging a movie with preconceived notions about what they think the movie is trying to say. I also think that a lot of people watch movies and think that, like, just because characters are doing things on screen that the director's endorsing it. It's really frustrating. as it is a film that not a lot of people have seen because it didn't get a really wide release, and I really don't want to spoil it. I'm going to leave it at that, but I strongly urge you to check out Silence and let me know what you think of it. We did do a review on the film, so it's up. I personally think the film should have been nominated for a lot more than just cinematography. Loving was another movie that I thought was going to get a lot of acclaim and be nominated for Best Picture, but Ruth Negga was really the only person who was nominated in that film. I was actually really excited to see Jeff Nichols get a nomination, but unfortunately this just wasn't the year for him. I will say I was a little bit amused when I heard that Deadpool was in the running for Best Picture, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, right. But with that being said, I guarantee you that Ryan Reynolds will make some appearance in the Oscars in the Deadpool costume, breaking the fourth wall in one way or another. Whether he shows up to the Oscars in costume and actually does something on stage in costume, or they have something recorded. I guarantee you there's going to be something involving Deadpool this year at the Oscars. Alright, so for me, there are only 2 noteworthy snubs. Do you have any snubs that you would suggest should have been nominated for Best Picture? Who do you think will win Best Picture? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.